I was 17 when Mom told me she was sick. She sat me down at the kitchen table. Her hands trembled as she reached for mine. "Leah," she whispered, "the doctors say I have a rare autoimmune disease. It's progressive. There's no cure, but we'll manage." I didn't cry. Not right away. I just nodded like I could somehow hold it together for her. But inside, the world cracked. College suddenly felt like a selfish dream. My plans to study journalism in New York crumbled under the weight of guilt. I promised myself I'd stay for a year, just to help out. 1 year. That year turned into 2. Mom wasn't bedridden exactly, but she moved slowly, dramatically. Every morning she winced as she stood, holding her lower back. Some days she barely left the couch, wrapped in a blanket, sighing while I brought her tea, managed the bills, cooked dinner. I Googled her symptoms, tried to find support groups, but something always felt off. Doctors never called. I never saw a single prescription. They're old-fashioned, she'd say. They don't do email. I don't want to worry you with details. At 20, I've had a job at the local library to help cover expenses. I told her I wanted to try night classes. She clutched my wrist like I'd just stabbed her. "Leah, you know I can't be alone that much." So I stayed. Again. And every time I tried to step forward, she got worse. "My vision's getting blurry," she said one night, her eyes locked on mine. "The doctors think it might spread to my lungs. But it's okay. I just need you close for now." I was 22 when I met Daniel. He was kind, a little awkward, but he made me laugh. He was the first person who ever asked me, "What do you want?" I didn't know how to answer. When Mom found out I was seeing someone, she got a flare-up. I came home to find her collapsed on the bathroom floor, groaning in pain. She clung to me and whispered, "Promise me you won't leave me, Leah. Promise." So I broke up with Daniel and told myself again that I was doing the right thing. After all, what kind of daughter leaves her sick mother? But I couldn't ignore it anymore. I started noticing cracks. Her pill bottles were empty, filled with vitamins. Her doctor's appointments were always vague, and she never came back with papers. I once overheard her laughing loudly on the phone with a friend. Then when she saw me, she instantly started coughing. I was 24 when the truth finally shattered everything. It started with a purse. Mom had gone out to get groceries. She left in a rush, said the store was having a sale on herbal tea that helped with her inflammation. I offered to go, but she insisted I stay home and rest. That alone felt strange. She never encouraged me to take breaks. When the door clicked shut, I finally breathed. For months, I'd lived in quiet tension, walking on emotional eggshells, doubting myself, fearing that even thinking she might be faking something made me a terrible daughter. But the doubts were piling up. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I went into her room. It felt invasive, wrong. But I was tired of sacrificing my life for a ghost illness. I opened her nightstand drawer. It was filled with loose papers, old receipts, a few vitamins, nothing alarming. Then I saw her purse. Something about it caught my eye. Not the bag itself, but how she always guarded it like it was gold. She even slept with it next to the bed sometimes. I'd asked her once why, and she brushed it off with a joke. Just in case I need to run away in my sleep. I unzipped it slowly. My hands shook. Inside was her wallet, a pack of gum, and folded neatly, a series of envelopes. They were appointment reminders. I opened the first one. It was from a local wellness spa, not a hospital. The words aromatherapy and cranial massage were highlighted. The others were similar. Acupuncture sessions, essential oil workshops, a flyer for a healing crystal seminar. No oncology, no specialists, no prescriptions. Then I saw the worst one. A typed letter from a counselor, dated 2 years ago. It was addressed to her. I skimmed it, my eyes freezing on one sentence. "While I understand your fears of abandonment, continuing to fabricate illness as a way to keep Leah from moving forward is emotionally harmful to both of you." My blood ran cold. I couldn't breathe. The rest of the letter blurred. I stared at that sentence like it had physically punched me. She knew. She had admitted it, at least to a therapist, and she kept going anyway. I sank onto her bed, my chest tight. How many years had I lost? How many dreams had I buried because of a lie? The front door opened. "Leah, I got chamomile and..." Her voice stopped. I stood in the doorway of her room, the letter in my hand. She saw it, and for a moment, just a split second, she didn't look sick. She didn't look scared. She looked caught. Then she crumbled. "Leah, baby, it's not what you think. I was scared you'd leave me. I just wanted us to stay close. That's all. You're all I have." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said, "You lied to me for 7 years." She reached for me, but I stepped back. All those times I watched her limp into the living room. All those nights I made dinner, helped her up the stairs, stayed home while my friends graduated, moved away, fell in love. All that guilt, all that manipulation. And now she was standing there with grocery bags perfectly fine. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to run. Another part, the exhausted, broken part, wanted to sit down and sob. But mostly, I felt empty. "Leah," she whispered, "please. I was just trying to keep you close." I met her eyes and said the hardest words of my life. "You lost me the moment you started pretending you were dying." And I walked out. I didn't go far. Just 2 blocks down to Daniel's apartment, the only place that didn't feel poisoned by manipulation. I hadn't spoken to him in months, not since Mom guilted me into breaking up. But when he opened the door and saw my face, he didn't hesitate. He just pulled me into a hug and said, "It's okay. You're okay now." That night, I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. The next morning, my phone buzzed with missed calls, 17 of them, all from Mom. Then the text came. "I didn't mean to hurt you. Please come home. You misunderstood. I was sick, just not in the way you think. If you love me, you'd at least talk to me. You've always been dramatic, Leah, just like your father. You're killing me by doing this." I turned off my phone. Daniel made us eggs and toast. I barely touched mine. I couldn't stop shaking. "You need to talk to someone," he said. "Not her. A therapist. A real one. Leah, this is trauma." I laughed. A bitter, hollow laugh. "Yeah, well, I don't even know what's real anymore." I stayed with him for a week, and every day I tried to imagine how to live without guilt. But it clung to me, like smoke in my lungs. Every quiet moment, I'd hear her voice. "You're all I have." I'd see her face the night she collapsed in the hallway, remember how I'd held her hand and begged her to stay alive. None of it was real, except the pain. I finally went to a therapist. I told her everything. She didn't look shocked. She nodded slowly, then said something that made me freeze. "She sounds like someone with Munchausen by proxy. Not in a traditional medical abuse sense, but emotional manipulation. It's not about medicine. It's about control. Control." That word settled in my chest like a stone, because it was true. Every moment of my adult life had been controlled, not with chains or violence, but with fear, with guilt, with love weaponized into a leash. When I didn't go home, Mom started showing up at my work. Once she waited outside the library for 2 hours, just sat there in the cold with a scarf wrapped around her head like she was dying. She didn't say anything when I came out, just looked at me with big tear-filled eyes. I walked right past her. That night she left a voicemail sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. "You've abandoned me," she choked. "You're no better than your father. He left me too. You're heartless, Leah." Daniel asked me if I wanted to change my number. I did. Then the letters started. Slipped under the door, left in the mailbox. One even taped to my car windshield. Pages and pages of apologies that weren't really apologies, just elaborate emotional traps. "I can't live without you. You don't understand what it's like to be alone. I sacrificed everything for you. But it's fine. I'll just be here, dying slowly, if you ever decide to remember who your mother is." I burned the last one. But even as the flames curled around her looping script, part of me ached. Because I did love her. That was the worst part. I loved her so much it physically hurt. And for years, she twisted that love into a cage. One afternoon, 2 months after I'd left, I came home from work to find my front door open. Daniel wasn't home. My heart immediately started racing. I stepped inside, slowly calling out hello, what I already knew. She was sitting on my couch. My mom, like nothing had happened, like this was normal. She even had the audacity to pour herself a glass of water. Her coat was folded neatly on the armrest, her purse by her feet. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice trembling. She looked up with those wide, watery eyes that used to control me so easily. "I needed to see you. You broke in. You never returned my calls," she said softly. "You left me. I didn't know what else to do." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I'd spent too long being the one who held in everything. So I walked to the center of the room and said, loud and clear, "I know everything. I saw the letters. I spoke to your therapist. You lied." Her face didn't change, not even a flinch. Instead, she set the glass down, stood up, and walked toward me slowly, like a performance. "Leah, I am sick. Just not in the way you wanted me to be." "I didn't want you to be sick at all," I snapped. "I just wanted the truth. I gave up years of my life to take care of you, and it was all fake." She tilted her head, her expression calm. "It wasn't fake to me. You don't understand what it's like to be alone." My fists clenched. "You stole my 20s. You made me feel guilty for falling in love. You ruined my chances at school, friends, life, and you don't even regret it, do you?" There was a pause. And then, with horrifying honesty, she said, "No, because you were finally mine. That broke something in me. It was the first time she'd said it. Not with flowers, not with tears, not in some manipulative sob story. Just plainly, she knew. She knew what she'd done, and she liked it. I felt cold, hollow. "I want you out," I whispered. She blinked. "You don't mean that." "I do." She stepped closer. "You'll come back to me eventually. You always do." "I won't." "You said you loved me." "I did, but not anymore." Silence stretched between us like a canyon. And then she said, "You're just like your father." I opened the door and pointed. "Get out." She stood there for a moment longer, then slowly picked up her coat, her purse, and walked past me. On her way out, she whispered, "You'll regret this, Leah." But I already regretted not walking away sooner. As the door closed behind her, I finally exhaled. The room was quiet. Too quiet. I looked around and saw all the damage she'd left behind. Not in furniture, not in broken things, but in me. And I knew the real healing hadn't even started yet. It's been almost a year since I closed the door behind her. I wish I could say it was easy after that I felt free, empowered, whole. But the truth is, the silence that followed was almost worse than the lies. There were no more texts, no more voicemails, no letters, just absence. And for the first time in my life, I was alone with my own choices. I didn't know what food I liked. I didn't know what music made me happy. I didn't even know if I liked living in this city or if I had just stayed because she made me feel like I had to. Daniel stayed by my side, patient, kind, but I could tell it hurt him to watch me unravel. One night, I told him I wanted to take a break. "Not from you," I said, seeing the fear in his eyes. "From everything. I need to find out who I am when no one's controlling me." So I packed a bag, said goodbye, and took a train out of the city. I didn't have a plan. Just a list of places I'd always wanted to go, but never had the chance. I spent the first few weeks sleeping in cheap hostels, writing in a journal I hadn't touched in years. I wrote about the day she told me she was sick. I wrote about the time I canceled a date to sit on the bathroom floor while she pretended to vomit. I wrote about the guilt that had been fed to me with every bowl of soup I made her. And then I burned that journal, because I didn't want to carry that weight anymore. I got a part-time job at a bookstore in a quiet coastal town. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt safe. I started drawing again, something I hadn't done since I was 16. I made friends, real ones, people who didn't know my past, people who didn't see me as a caregiver or a victim, just Leah. Sometimes I still woke up in cold sweats. I dream I was back in that house, her voice calling me from the other room, telling me she needed tea, that her vision was going, that her heart hurt. But when I've opened my eyes, it was just me, just the quiet. And I learned to love that silence. One evening, while watching the ocean crash against the rocks, I took out my phone and typed a message. Not to send, just to write it. "Mom, I don't hate you, but I can't love you either. Not until you love me enough to let me go." I never sent it, but I didn't delete it either, because I think someday I'll need to remember how far I've come. It happened on a rainy Wednesday, almost exactly 1 year after I walked away. I came home from work at the bookstore to find a small brown envelope taped to my front door. No return address, just my name, handwritten, the way only she wrote it. Sharp letters, underlined twice. I stood there for a long time, getting wet, staring at it. Part of me wanted to rip it up on the spot, but I didn't. I brought it inside, changed into dry clothes, made tea, all the while ignoring the growing weight in my chest. Then I sat at the table, lit a candle, and finally opened it. The paper inside was thick, neat, carefully folded. "Leah, this is the last time you'll hear from me. I promise. I've been seeing a new therapist, one who doesn't let me hide behind lies. She says I use you to feel needed, that I confuse love with control. I use your kindness like a crutch, and when you started to grow, I panicked. I clipped your wings and called it love. I can't take back what I did. I can't fix the years you lost, but I can stop taking more. I hope one day you find the kind of peace I stole from you. I won't reach out again. That's my gift to you." Mom, I didn't cry. I just sat there, staring at the words, letting the silence absorb them. It wasn't redemption. It wasn't an apology that fixed anything. But for the first time, it felt like she saw the damage. I read it twice, then folded it back up and placed it in a small box in my closet, not to treasure, but to remind myself. It happened. It was real. I survived. A few days later, I went to the beach again, the same spot as before. I watched the waves and thought about how much of my life had been built around her moods for stories, her fake fragility, and how now there was only me, just me, with no one left to please or fix or save. And somehow, in that emptiness, I finally felt free. 6 months after that final letter, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in me, that same quiet, intuitive voice I was learning to trust, told me to pick up. "Leah," came the voice, female, nervous. "This is Melissa. I'm your cousin." I froze. Mom had been an only child. At least that's what she always told me. "I know this is strange," Melissa continued, "but I found your name in some paperwork after my mom passed. She was your mother's older sister. I didn't even know you existed until recently." I sat down slowly. "A sister. A family member Mom never mentioned." Melissa went on to explain that the family had cut contact with my mother over 25 years ago. "She didn't just isolate from you," she said. "She isolated from all of us. She didn't want anyone challenging her version of reality. We agreed to meet. She lived in a neighboring state. I took the train just like I had when I left Mom. The entire ride, I kept expecting to feel panic, that old familiar guilt creeping up. But instead, I felt curious, hopeful. Melissa greeted me at the station with a soft smile and warm eyes. She looked like me. Same chin, same tired but kind eyes. We hugged and I nearly cried. She brought old photos. Pictures of my mom as a teenager, smiling, vibrant, carefree. A version I had never seen. In one photo, she was dancing in a field with flowers in her hair. In another, holding a baby, Melissa's little brother. She was funny, Melissa said, intense. But when your dad left, something changed. She became scared. Possessive. She told us you both were better off alone. We spent hours talking about the past, about the people I never got to know, about the lies Mom had told, not just to me, but to herself. I realized something sitting across from Melissa. My mother had broken me in many ways, but she hadn't erased me. I was still here. And now, I wasn't alone. Later that night, I wrote in a new journal. "Family isn't who raises you. It's who sees you clearly and chooses to stay." That sentence stayed with me. I still don't know if I'll ever see my mom again, but for the first time, I know I don't have to, because I'm finally living my own story. People always talk about closure like it's something you find, like a key waiting in some dusty drawer that suddenly unlocks all the pain and makes it neat, explainable, finished. But I don't think closure is real, not for things like this. What is real is peace. And it doesn't come all at once. Sometimes it looks like walking past the pharmacy without remembering her fake prescriptions. Sometimes it's not flinching when someone coughs or says, "I don't feel well." Sometimes it's hearing a voicemail beep and not feeling a cold sweat rush down my back. I still think of her. Every so often, I imagine she's watching me. I wonder if she wonders about me too. Does she think I was cruel, ungrateful, or does she finally understand what she took? The thing is, I don't need the answers anymore. I built a small life for myself, quiet, ordinary. I volunteer at a community center. I adopted a cat. I read books without checking the time. I call Daniel sometimes. We're not together, but we're okay. He was there when I needed someone most. I planted a garden outside my apartment, just a few pots on the windowsill. Basil, mint, lavender. I used to hate plants. Mom always said they were too much work. But now, I water them every morning. There's something sacred about caring for something just because it matters to you. No guilt, no manipulation, no strings, just love gently offered. One morning as I clipped lavender for tea, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not at her, not at myself. What happened to me wasn't fair. But healing isn't about fairness. It's about reclaiming what's left and learning how to live with what never came. I still keep the final letter. Sometimes I reread it, not because I miss her, but because it reminds me of the girl I was. The one who believed love meant sacrifice, the one who stayed, the one who finally chose to leave. And every time I fold it back up and return it to the box, I feel a little stronger. Not because it's over, but because I kept going anyway.